Chapter 22. The 13th. Oberon Junius looked up as the sound vibrated through the air to him, muffled by falling snow. It was so familiar. Its cadence and lyrics burned into his mind by tens of thousands of hours marching the Roman road. He thought it must be his imagination at first. We're men of the 13th. Rome's legions win the day. We'll fuck your mothers and all of the others, piss off, clear out of the way. You've heard the trumpet sound, the infantry advance. Soldiers of Rome will burn your home, our standards in your arse. Then they came into view. More than 3,000 dead men, crisp in formation, 6 abreast on a Roman road all these men had marched upon before. They did not carry the eagles. They had no shields or pilum, but Oberon recognized the proud stock of his 13th legion pouring out into the field and heard the centurions calling out, "Tarda, ad dextrum, depon, et sinostrum, depon." The ranks behind the first began to wheel to both sides and deploy, until what seemed to Oberon's experienced eye, 6 full cohorts of the dead were ordered to parade rest in front of him. "Ad laxa!" screamed a centurion. There was absolute stillness. The only sounds, falling snow and burning torches. The living men, who had just been made members of the auxiliary, stood together, fear trembling through them. Then, out of the darkness, merging from the rows of crucified men behind Oberon, General Verus rode. He guided his horse to the center of the army, in between Oberon's men with their huddled, living and breathing auxiliary and the vast, rigid ranks of reinforcements the old woman had blessed him with, as promised. Verus's voice echoed out, "Men of the 13th, the gods have sent you to me, reborn. You made your oath to me in life. You made your oath to Rome. You lived by that word of honor and died by it. You live again now to fulfill that promise." As he spoke, warm droplets of rain started falling. Verus looked up as it began to overtake the snow and pour down into the field. "You see, even the skies are weeping with joy that you have risen. Gifted by the gods with a second life, you will not die a second time. All that I ask is all you have to give." From the ranks, someone yelled, "For Verus!" And the chant began, "Verus! Verus! Verus! Verus!" General Verus reveled in it, touched by ecstasy. The feel of the warm rain made him recall the beach at Anzio, the summer's hot rainstorms that came with sheet lightning he watched with his father from the comfort of their villa, as the bolts savaged the dark blue Tyrrhenian Sea beyond the surf. Verus raised his hand, and the chanting ceased. They settled obediently into silence. Then, the rattle of Li Peng's machine gun reached them. Verus looked to Oberon. Oberon Junius had heard it too. It was difficult to get a direct bearing on its location, but he knew it was somewhere to the east. "Centurion, what is that?" asked Verus. "I don't know, sir, but I expect we can face it, whatever in the hells it is," Oberon replied. Verus smiled. "And so it begins." He turned to the risen men of the 13th Legion. "We go forth now, conquering, and to conquer. There was a roar of approval. Then in unison, thousands of dead men's voices cried out, "Victory for Rome! Victory for Varus!" Oberon barked out to Dominicus, "Marching order! The whole legion and the auxiliary with them. Let's find out if our new recruits will spill blood for Rome." Dominicus shouted out to his sergeants and they fell in. The dead Romans pulling the living contingent of auxiliaries into line with them. The war machinery began to turn in earnest. Oberon's cohort led, calling out the cadence, as the reborn 13th Legion heaved into formation and marched through the field, a living juggernaut of the dead and living, ploughing toward the city of San Quentin at a steady tramp, while the rain poured down upon them, its warm shower washing the dry blood from them, cleansing their sins, creating a blank canvas upon which they might paint sins entirely anew. Judijai heard the familiar sound of a Lewis gun barking. He paused for half a breath and reoriented toward the sound, accelerating, heart pounding, legs churning through the snow. A glance over his shoulder revealed torches in the woods. Finbar, Adolf, Donny, and the rest running in his trail. He lifted his knees and sprinted ahead as the rainfall caught up to him. Finbar led Adolf, Donny, and the other 6 men in their squadron at a steady jog. Their torches lit Judijai's footprints. Finn paused when the machine gun erupted in the distance, but not for long. For now, the MG fire had nothing to do with him. There was only one task at hand. Run down the Gurkha, take his head off, bring it to the Roman, and buy passage to the Don. Then, come morning, when the sun rose up godlike and struck the Romans down as if it was Apollo himself, Finn would make a break for it. Until then, there was only the task at hand. The rain began. Finn saw Judijai's footprints starting to vanish in the slush. Losing Judijai would mean losing everything. Finn leaned forward and ran. Adolf was just behind Finbar, ecstatic. His certain death, followed close by miraculous mercy, had triggered a flush of chemicals that had him high as a kite, spinning and twisting in the ether as it tried to take wing, fighting the string that tethered it to some stupid, gleeful child's wrist. The image stuck with Adolf, and he wanted to yank that little bastard off the ground by the string and listen to him scream and wail as he pulled him up, up, up into the raging storm, higher and higher off the ground until the bit of twisted cotton filament could take no more and snapped, dropping the brat down, 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 his shriek like nails on a chalkboard until he hit, dashed on the rocks, irretrievably broken. Adolf laughed out loud at the image. Adolf did not take pleasure in much, but schadenfreude was part of his birthright, and his father's beatings and mother's disappointment had made sadism his one true joy. He watched the other torches bouncing along through the woods, held by Donny McMaster and the others, and he let out a whoop of joy. Donny McMaster looked over at Adolf and let out a rebel yell of his own, infected by Adolf's enthusiasm. The pain in his hip was gone. He too felt the immaculate pleasure of having survived, of being resurrected now as part of something much bigger than himself, and he was thrilled. He did not care what he had to do. He had been taken in and given life, accepted into something larger, grander, and more powerful than he would ever be as an individual. He would gladly do whatever it took to remain there. Adam Gillet ran through the darkness 30 yards behind Finn, Adolf, Donny, and the rest of their little lynch mob. He had witnessed Oberon's condemnation of Adolf and was satisfied that would be the end of him. But then some divine communication had occurred, and the death sentence had been revoked. He did not know for certain that murdering Adolf would offer any real protection to Francois, but he would do what he could while he could. He had, this moment and nothing beyond it, felt that it held much promise. He knew when dawn came, he would slip away from Matthias's flesh. A knot of fear in his stomach told him that the old woman would not allow him to come forth again. When the sun rose, she would be waiting, and her revenge for his betrayal would be swift and sure, brutal and eternal. If he did not kill Adolf now, he never would. If he did not find Francois again tonight, he would not see him again. The rain began to fall. He accelerated, closing the gap with Adolf Hitler. Judah Joy slipped in the melting snow. He slid down the grade on his backside, but kept his momentum going and rose out of it, propelling himself forward. The sound of the Lewis gun was his lodestar. He'd spent hours upon hours training, carrying, cleaning, firing, and killing with his own Lewis MG, and the roar and clatter were as comforting a thing as he could imagine right now. He knew he was fixed on the direction the sound came from and hoped he would not run past its position now that it had ceased fire. The rain was coming down full bore, harder and harder, and as the snow began to vanish and stream away into the gullies and ditches, the night took on a green-black cast without the bright reflection of the snow's white blanket. Judah came out of the woods and splashed through fast-moving, knee-high water in a drainage ditch. He climbed up onto the cambered dirt road beyond it and ran. That MG had to be close. Then he slowed. He smelled it. Exhaust. It was dampened by the rain, but the scent of burnt fuel was unmistakable. The road arced from eastward bound to due south, and as he jogged around the bend, he saw it ahead of him. A metal beast, 100 yards distant, its steel tracks tearing a path through the mud, its engine belching smoke out of the broken exhaust pipe that ran out of its roof. Judah found his last burst of energy and accelerated. Finbar saw the fast-flowing drainage ditch appear in front of him and tried to clear its flow in one leap. His foot slipped on the far side and he fell into the ditch, nearly losing hold of the kukuri. His wounded hand caught his fall. He nearly choked on the muddy water as he cried out in pain. Somehow he clung to the kukuri and jumped up, clambering over the bank and onto the road, forcing away the pain. His only desire now, a violent end for Judah Jai. Adolf and Donny were not far behind. They were slower getting through the fast-rising water, their guttering torches barely holding a flame in the downpour. Donny was first onto the far bank. He tucked his dagger into his belt, reached out to Adolf and pulled him up onto the road. The 6 men behind them were doggedly pressing the pace. Adolf ran after Finbar, while Donny stayed and helped the others up as they came. The last man got to the road's edge and Donny reached out for him. He grasped the cold hand of Matthias Nilsson's walking corpse. Donny felt death in the grip and wanted to let go, but the dead man held tight and pulled himself up into the dying flare of Donny's torchlight. Donny made eye contact with Matthias and wished he had not. Without a word, Adam Gillet and Matthias Nilsson's corpse ran after Adolf and the pack. Donny turned and hustled after him. He drew his trench dagger, clenching it, and the torch as he ran. The enthusiasm that had flowed through him had been quenched by the dead man's touch. He felt no need to catch his fellows. Let them engage the Gurkha and behead him. Donny would arrive just in time to stand witness, and thus would not have to partake in the slaughter. On top of relieving him of responsibility for killing the man, being lost to the fight would guarantee that he would not be the first to die. And that was more than enough for Donnie. Shensu heard a thump on the roof. He let out a yell of warning that reached Isaiah and Li Peng at the front of the tank. They looked back. In the glow of the flashlight, they saw Shensu pointing at the ceiling. "It's on the roof! There's something's on the roof!" Shensu hollered. Zichang lay beside Black Betty in the right-hand gun sponson. He was staring up, terrified, as something moved above him toward the front of the tank. Li Peng released the accelerator, and the metal treads ground to a halt. Over the sound of the engine's idle hum, they heard the boot steps coming forward. Then there was hammering at the ceiling hatch and a cry of, "Help! Help! Let me in!" Isaiah and Li Peng shed a glance. There was nothing said. Isaiah gave the Lewis gun a twist and pulled it free from the gun port. He leaned back and aimed the MG upward at the hatch. Li Peng turned the latch. He pointed his flashlight at the steel plate as it was pulled open. Rain poured in. A thoroughly drenched, dark brown face stared down at Isaiah's barrel. "Please, let me in. They are coming," said Judajai Pandit. Li Peng ploughed the tank along the road, through the ruins of San Quentin, the Daimler night engine roaring. Isaiah knelt next to Judajai in the sponson. Judah was bent forward, elbows on knees, beneath the 6-pound cannon, catching his breath. Zichang passed his canteen to Isaiah, who handed it to Judajai. Judah took a deep swallow and gave a nod of gratitude. "How many?" Isaiah hollered over the engine. "Hundreds," Judajai replied. "Bloody hundreds of them." "How close?" "Close. I don't know how close, but certainly close." Isaiah turned the flashlight toward Black Betty. She lay on her side, her coat a bloody mess, but he saw brown eyes looking his way, still alive for now. Isaiah gave her a gentle caress, then eased his way forward and sat back into the co-pilot's seat. "How many did he say?" Li Peng asked. Isaiah shook his head. "Too fucking many." He scanned the tank with the flashlight. He saw the burlap sacks that held pairs of Lewis gun drums. Above them, hanging in a holster, was a very light flare gun and a box of 12-gauge magnesium shells. "How close are they?" Li Peng asked. Isaiah unholstered the very light and grabbed the box of shells. "About to find out." In front of the tank, there was a huge flash of lightning. Isaiah and Peng saw the wide span ahead of them. Roiling water sprayed up on either side, all caught in the bright white strobe of plasma. The San Quentin Canal, a stone bridge arching over its breadth. "Well, shit, that ain't bad news. Long as there ain't 100 sitting on the far side, we might keep 'em off of us," said Isaiah. He turned back to Judah. "Hey, you rated on a Lewis gun?" Judajai nodded. Isaiah grabbed a pair of ammunition drums and passed them to Judah. Judah slung them round his neck. Isaiah followed the drums with the Lewis gun itself. "Come on, we're about to earn our spot in this motherfucker," said Isaiah. Isaiah dumped the box of flare shells into his haversack and picked up the Mauser grenade launcher. He unlatched the roof hatch and pushed it open on its steel hinge. Rain rushed in. Isaiah followed his Mauser up into it, disappearing through the black rectangle. Judajai passed the Lewis gun to him, then followed. The hatch slammed shut, and Li Peng gassed the tank toward the bridge that spanned the San Quentin Canal. Lightning flashed again, and through the viewport he saw the roar of white water where the sudden influx of snowmelt and downpour had swollen the canal high over its banks and was striking the bridge in a violent torrent, spraying up and over its side, where the cutwaters met the support arches and onto the roadway itself. The bridge was only 50 yards away, but as the tank crept toward it, slow and steady, it felt like 1,000 miles.